my name is Kurt Clemenson. I'm the director of the Earth Foundation, which is dedicated to saving the rainforests and other endangered ecosystems. The purpose of this video is to report back to all the teachers, students, and others who have made this such a successful year. Because of your help, we were able to raise over $350,000, which we've used to preserve 10,000 acres of rainforest again. Now, we're about to depart the Earth Foundation headquarters here in Houston, Texas for the country of Belize, the site of this year's conservation effort. Belize is a tiny country located south of the Yucatan Peninsula. Bordered by the countries of Mexico, Guatemala, and Honduras, Belize is the only English language speaking country in Central America. Once the center of the mighty Mayan civilization, Belize was colonized by British pirates who preyed on Spanish galleons, filled with gold and silver as they left the New World for home. The history of Belize is fascinating and could easily fill a whole semester of study. We'll take a look at some of that history, but our primary mission will be to explore the large expanse of rainforest that you've helped to preserve. While the other countries in the region have been cutting their forests at a sickening rate, half of Belize is still covered in forest. And what's even more amazing is that while it's only the size of Massachusetts, Belize has an incredibly diverse ecology. The interior of the country is covered with pine forests, savannas, and deciduous forests. The large tracts of rainforest-covered mountains in the south reach down to the Caribbean, eventually giving way to the mangrove forests along the coast. The roots of the mangroves are important estuaries where young fish develop. Without the mangroves, offshore commercial fishing would literally collapse. The mangroves in turn give way to the coral reef. In fact, the Belize Reef is second only to the Great Barrier Reef of Australia in length. Scuba divers come from all over the world to dive the reef, and the health of the coral reefs is directly related to the health of the rainforests. When the forests are cut, the rains wash the topsoil into the rivers. The rivers in turn carry the silt out into the reefs where it is deposited on top of the coral. This is one reason why so many coral reefs are dying around the world. Called the Blue Hole, this part of the reef is a favorite destination for divers. Thousands of years ago, it was a giant limestone cave, but when the roof of the cave collapsed, it left a hole over 400 feet deep and 1,000 feet across. Belize is also covered with countless Mayan ruins. In fact, the tallest building in the country is this ancient Mayan temple found at Caracol. Archaeologists think that there may be as many as 38,000 temples spread over the 50-square-mile site. Now that we've learned some things about Belize, let's take a closer look at the Adopt an Acre site. The size of Massachusetts, Belize is an incredibly diverse country. You have pine forest mountains down here, the second largest coral reef in the world, second only to the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. This is farmland primarily up here, lots of sugar cane growing. The program for Belize area is this area right here, a total of 228,000 acres. The initial 110,000 acres was set up by the Massachusetts Audubon Society, and they've made certain that it's a Belize entity that controls and runs that. 42,000 acres and 50,000 acres were owned by Coca-Cola USA, who had thought about putting in orange groves, but later on, after much consideration, donated the land to program. This final strip here, 26,000 acres, was owned by a forestry company, and that is where the Adopt an Acre program is buying land. It's actually been acquired and given to program, and it's the note that we're paying off with the money that you as students are able to raise. You can see with all of the farming that's going on outside of the park how important it is that this land be preserved forever. Into Guatemala and Mexico, longer term, our hope is that we're going to be able to create what's called a tri-national park. All of this area would be protected. We hope that this area would be large enough then to create a reserve that would protect all the species long-term, jaguars, monkeys, etc., that are found in that area. Rio Bravo will be owned and managed by the Program for Belize. Established in 1988, the Program for Belize is a not-for-profit Belizean company that is revolutionizing the concept of conservation. In the Rio Bravo area of northwestern Belize, archaeologists, scientists, and Belizean trainees are finding answers to the global question, how can we benefit from our natural resources without destroying them? To help Belize and the world answer this question, Program for Belize has established a research station on the land it owns in trust for the people of Belize. We're shooting from the Rio Bravo Research Station, which is the conservation flagship for the Program for Belize. This area began with about 50,000 acres and today has grown to 228,000 acres. As surrounding areas have fallen to agriculture, the reserve has become much more important in protecting wildlife and other species found only in this area. It's about 6:30 in the morning and we've been up now for about an hour taking advantage of the incredible bird watching. Almost 300 species of birds have actually been recorded in this area, including many of the neotropical migrants. Neotropical migrants, of course, are the birds that spend the summer in the United States. Many of our songbirds, warblers, tanagers, thrushes, robins, orioles, flycatchers, and they return to the rainforest in the wintertime. Belize is already a major destination for bird watchers from all over the world. Program for Belize hopes to build an even larger birdwatching tourist industry with the money generated used to protect the forests. In addition to neotropical migrants at Rio Bravo, birdwatchers would find the keel-billed toucan, which is the national bird of the country, the British Honduras turkey, which just wandered out of the forest as we were filming, and many other exotic species including parrots and macaws. In addition to the 300 species found in the Rio Bravo area, Belize is home to another 250 species, including the rare jabiru stork. This area is great for bird watching because of what we call the edge effect. When the forest is first cut, new species of trees and brush appear that seem to thrive on sunlight. These, of course, are different than deep forest shade trees. Examples would include cecropia, many species of palm trees, and fruit and nut species. Birds come early in the morning to feed on the plants and to also stalk insects that are found in the clearing. We're just a few weeks away from the rainy season, so many species of plants are beginning to flower and already drop seed pods. As the rains begin, these seed pods will burst forth with new life, starting new trees and bushes here along the edge of the forest. In addition to the many birds and plants that are found in the forest, Rio Bravo shelters a large number of species of mammals. For example, we find all 5 species of cats that are native to the tropical American forests: jaguars, the much smaller but just as beautiful ocelot, pumas, which are called mountain lions in the United States, the extremely elusive jaguarundi, and margays. As the neotropical rainforests have been cut, these cats have become rare and even extinct in many locations. The forest is also home to the 2 species of monkeys found in Belize. Howler monkeys, called baboons by the people of Belize, are best known for their voice. The roar from a single male, which can be heard up to a half-mile away, is caused by a hollow bone in the throat. The second species found in the forest is the spider monkey. Decimated by a yellow fever epidemic in the 50s, their population has slowly recovered from good conservation efforts. Many other mammals call the Rio Bravo area home. Some are very strange, such as this guy called a bush dog. We also find quadrimundis, which are related to our raccoons. Raccoons, by the way, are also found in this forest. Still other animals include the national mammal of Belize called the tapir. Although it looks similar to a pig, it is more closely related to a horse and is an important disperser of seeds for new plants. These creatures are called pacas or agoutis and are actually very large rodents. The forest is home to numerous species of reptiles and amphibians, such as iguanas and basilisk lizards, and a number of snakes, including this tropical rattlesnake that is very closely related to our diamondback rattlers. Belize has both salt and freshwater species of crocodiles. Certain rivers in the Rio Bravo area teem with this species known as the Morley crocodile. And as we said, the forest is home to hundreds of species of birds, such as this curassow. In addition to protecting the wildlife of the forest, Rio Bravo is an important research station. Here we see an intern monitoring the recently installed weather station. This data will help to provide clues about changing rain patterns from global warming and its effect on the forest. Rio Bravo is designed to create a minimal impact both on the surrounding forest and the planet Earth. Sustainable technology, such as these solar panels, is therefore implemented wherever possible. The manager of Rio Bravo is Bart Romero. During our visit, Bart explained the mission of the research station.
Well, Rio Bravo Research Station started around 1988 when Program for Belize started. Actually, this area is all managed by the organization Program for Belize. And what we aim at doing here is something we call having your cake and eating it at the same time. which is having the forest and using its resources to make it pay for itself. That's the main goal of Program for Belize. Some of the things we're going to be doing here, especially, as I mentioned, using the natural resources. One of them is the extraction of chicle, which is a natural gum from the sapodilla tree that was extracted from this area for about 40 to 50 years.
That was some of the original chewing gum?
Yeah, that was the original chewing gum that was used by chiclets. And the other one we're looking at is some sustainable logging, which some people might not like, but we're going to do it in a sustainable manner. We're also going to be looking at some plants, such as orchids. We have in plan to put in a micropropagation laboratory right here to do that. The other project we have also is, besides micropropagation, we're looking at ecotourism. I hate to say the word ecotourism because many other businesses are using it as a bluff just to attract people, But we really are looking at ecotourism here. And what we're doing is using the revenue or the income from the tourist project to pay for the expenses of the organization. Presently here at Rio Bravo Research Station is the only place we have right now that we're using. But this small area with the 2 cabañas and 1 dormitory facility has generated up to 40% of the expenses.
As we've said before, we cannot turn all the rainforests into giant theme parks. They're going to have to pay their way if they're going to be saved. As Program for Belize board member Therese Rath states,
for so many years and for so long, the idea of conservation has been an extremist point of view. Don't cut down anything, don't touch the area. And that's not a practical approach when you're talking about the entire resource. It's very important to have areas like that. But conservation should be a part of development instead of, separate from it.
during the next few days, we were able to explore not only the forests, but also learn about the many potential sustainable development projects that Bart had discussed. Orchid propagation is one of the industries that has the potential for large revenues. This is a black orchid for which collectors in the United States and Europe will pay top dollar. In addition to being a potential cash crop for Rio Bravo, orchid cultivation can provide jobs for the people of Belize, such as this young intern. So, Charlene, tell me a little bit about this orchid.
Well, this is the vanilla paniflora. It is used, the beans, well, it produces a pod, and inside there's, when it flowers, and there are some little seeds in it, and this is manufactured into vanilla.
Oh.
And sometimes, well, the ice cream we eat in Belize is made from the vanilla.
Oh, so this is actual vanilla that they get for vanilla ice cream then?
Yes.
Great. Kareem is also an intern with Program for Belize. This particular project is a scientific study of the beetles found in the area. Kareem checks these traps on a regular basis, records his findings, and collects samples. These samples will then be forwarded to a university in the United States for additional studies. As Bart stated, ecotourism can also provide significant revenues for Rio Bravo. Earth Foundation sponsors eco-educational programs in countries such as Belize and Costa Rica. Each year, hundreds of teachers and students are able to learn firsthand about the efforts that we are making to preserve the rainforests. These students from San Francisco are not only studying the rainforest, they're also learning about the foods, the culture, the history, the political system, and especially about the people of this special place called Belize. And of course, the money that they spend will support further conservation efforts. Although this is truly an educational experience for the students, and they oftentimes participate in work projects such as tree planting and research, the trips are also filled with activities such as whitewater rafting, snorkeling, and rappelling down 80-foot cliffs. Would you recommend other students consider a trip down to Costa Rica or Belize or one of the countries with rainforests?
Yes, definitely, because I think it's a really good experience for people to go and see all the animals, and it's just a wonderful experience for everyone.
Do you think this is going to change your life a little bit?
Definitely. It made me more independent, and you're kind of on your own, and you have to take care of yourself, and you're in the wild, and it's really cool.
Another potential source of revenue for Program for Belize is chicle. Here the students are examining an old sapodilla tree which produced chicle for chewing gum. After booming back in the 30s and 40s, it finally played out in the 1950s. With the strong interest in health and natural foods in the United States, Program for Belize hopes to create a market for chicle, the natural gum found in the forest. The chiclero hacks harmless grooves into the trees, and the gum follows the grooves into buckets at the base of the tree. After a week of milking, the chiclero brings the harvest to his camp in the forest. He spends Sunday cooking the chicle to remove the excess water from the sap. Hopefully, someday soon, this sap will be sold as chewing gum in stores in the United States. Another big draw for tourists is La Milpa, the extensive Mayan ruins found at Rio Bravo. According to Program for Belize's Alan Herrera, the excavation of La Milpa will only disturb the forest when absolutely necessary.
Whenever the archaeologists go into any of our sites, we try to make sure that the forested areas are not affected more than they have to. Granted, it is very difficult to work in the forest as we would find it naturally, and therefore it is necessary to clear the underbrush. But the trees, the tall trees, are left, almost all of them left intact. Apart from also being an archaeological site, as I mentioned, the sites are not cut clearly, and therefore there's a lot of trees, and because there are a lot of trees, there are a lot of seeds which encourage the birds to come around. And other types of wildlife are also very abundant. And it's also a refreshing area to walk through. People like the fact that when they come into these areas, they look pretty much the way the first explorers found them.
Though there are plans to completely excavate one pyramid, when it is finished, archaeologists will leave the rest of La Milpa as it was found. The challenge for Program for Belize is to balance the harvesting of the forest products and tourism with its preservation. The alternative to sustainable development is not a pleasant thought. This is the edge of Rio Bravo. Farmers have completely destroyed the forest right up to the property line. These same farmers were bidding for the land purchased through our Adopt an Acre program this year. Although we don't know how long this land will produce crops, we do know that once abandoned, it will be many decades before a mature forest grows here again. You can be proud of the fact that because of your efforts, the Rio Bravo forest has been spared this fate. After a wonderful visit to Rio Bravo, our last stop in the country was to speak with Joy Grant, the Executive Director of Program for Belize. Joy, could you tell us a little bit about the history of Program?
Well, I'm very happy to be here, and thanks for coming. Program for Belize started in January of 1988. Since then, we have done many things out on the property, and today we can boast that we are protecting 230,000 acres of tropical moist forest.
And how exactly did the program get started? Could you tell us a little bit about the history of it?
That's an interesting question, because Program for Belize started from a failed attempt to start what would have been the biggest citrus plantation in the country of Belize. A few non-Belizeans came together and decided that they would launch a campaign to purchase 110,000 acres which had come on the market. This land is very strategically placed, being on the border with Mexico and Guatemala, and one day we hope could be part of a tri-nation park.
So you have 230,000 acres.
Yes, about 230,000 acres with 2 additional parcels we hope to acquire soon. One from the government, which would give us a linkage to Mexico, on the border with our property, and another piece in the Pine Ridge, which is a donation from Coca-Cola Foods. Of course, we had to fundraise for years, and we couldn't have bought these lands and paid for them without help from organizations such as the Earth Foundation. We have been really, I think, blessed to have had the children understand what's happening in the environmental world, and they have been our strongest supporters. I would like to conclude by saying that at present we have over 400 students coming from the United States, and they join with Belizean students to do rainforest ecology and marine biology. And we would like more students to come, to join with our children, to enjoy the rainforest that we are protecting for them.
Program for Belize is an inspirational story of rainforest conservation. We can be confident that the Rio Bravo area will be safe and secure for many years to come, protecting the wildlife and other species native to the area. But Rio Bravo was more than just another reserve or park. It is an experiment in truly sustainable development. If Program for Belize can demonstrate the possibility of using its natural resources without destroying them in the process, we can all learn some important lessons. I and my staff would like to offer our sincerest thanks to all of you that have worked to help us protect this important area. Now, this summer, I'll be traveling to Central and South America to locate another rainforest area that we can protect with our next Adopt an Acre campaign. At the same time, many students and teachers from around the United States will join the Earth Foundation on our eco-educational trips to places like Belize and Costa Rica. I look forward to working with you again in the next school year and encourage you to consider traveling with us to this paradise on Earth.